As you may see, we've just concluded the Christmas carol service here at St. David's Cathedral in Cardiff. We've had a feast of music and readings and prayer to prepare ourselves for the coming feast of Christmas. You don't need me to tell you that this Christmas is going to be unlike anything we've ever experienced before. And the recent instructions on the lockdown have caused much distress among so many people, unable perhaps to come to church, unable to see their families, unable to exchange the usual Christmas greetings. But I told the people here at the carol service that this is not the first time in this country that Christmas has either been threatened or forbidden or even abolished. In fact, in the year 1649, after the execution of King Charles I, the Puritans, under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell, decreed that the celebrations around Christmas were far too frivolous and far too excessive. The Puritans didn't just stop people eating and drinking and dancing, they even stopped them going to church. There was a famous diarist in the 17th century, which many of you will know the name of, Samuel Pepys. But there was another great diarist in that time called John Evelyn. And he describes in his diary when he tried to go to church on Christmas Day in the year 1657. This is what he wrote. The chapel was surrounded by soldiers when we arrived, men of high flight and above any ordinance or law, who spake spiteful things about our Lord's nativity. As we went up to receive the sacrament, these miscreants held their muskets against us as though they would have shot us at the altar. And we think that we have problems today. In the end, of course, the Puritans didn't succeed in abolishing Christmas. They were wrong, of course, to try to do so and probably didn't have a chance. But there were some things that were right about their thinking. They realized that you can't separate festivity from worship. When you glorify God for all he has created and all he does for us, you also have to celebrate it in a very human way with other people. They couldn't understand how you could celebrate a pagan feast, Sol Invictus, the unknown sun, which would disappear on the 21st of December, the shortest day, the longest night, and would the sun ever reappear? Sol Invictus, the pagan feast. No wonder that the followers of Jesus chose this darkest time in the year to celebrate the true sun, the light of the world, Jesus Christ, the unconquered Son. The Puritans realized that paganism and Christianity have to live with tension between them in the world in which we live. Christmas is all of these things, darkness and light, feasting and worship, worldly and religious. And it's our job as believers in the nativity of Jesus Christ to bring all of those strands of the human condition together. This difficult time teaches us many lessons for life if only we have the eyes and the ears to respond to them. The great symbols that we use at Christmas teach us these lessons. The manger prepared here for the Christ child. The manger is the throne of heaven. God came down to earth. God becomes human in order to make humanity share in the divine. Eternity in a moment. The shepherds, who haven't arrived just yet, but they will shortly, social outcasts, the first to worship the Christ child. Eternity in the unlikely. Wise men from afar, strangers and aliens and searchers, a reminder of eternity now for everyone, known and unknown. But all of these people experience the vision for just a moment. They cannot stay. They've got to go back to their ordinary lives. Mary and Joseph return to Nazareth. The shepherds go back to their flocks. The wise men escape Herod and go back home by a different route. Once you have encountered the incarnation, the presence of God among us, you cannot go on in the ordinary way. You have to go on by a different route. Edwin Muir, the Scottish poet, wrote, "Reality or vision, this we have seen. If it had lasted but a moment, it might have held forever. But the world rolled back into its place, and we are here, and all that radiant kingdom lies forlorn." I'd like just to reflect on those four words, and we are here. At the end of this difficult year, in this difficult time, there is no other time, so we have to use the grace of the present moment. Gathered together, we experience the sights and sounds and faith and hope that the religious festival of Christmas brings to us. Jesus was born into a world filled with its own turmoil and confusion. He immersed himself in our world, becoming like us in all things but sin. And in his death on the cross, he paid the ultimate price, the sacrifice of love. On the cross, Jesus does not withdraw God's love, does not say, "What have these people done to me? They have rejected me. They are unforgivable." On the cross, Jesus goes on revealing, goes on loving, goes on forgiving. The key, of course, to his resurrection from the dead. The Gospels, which chronicle the life and the teaching of Jesus, are not simple documents. They demand that we immerse ourselves in them and discover new lessons each time we read them. If it isn't too crude to put it this way, the Gospels were written from back to front. They begin with the death and resurrection of Jesus, how to make sense of these extraordinary events. Where is God in the midst of human suffering? Here, says Jesus, with his arms outstretched on the cross. The early church, the disciples, the apostles, the gospel writers, all came to believe that it was Jesus, the Son of God, hanging on the wood of the cross, giving his life in that sacrifice of love. That's the beginning of the Gospels. And then they reflected back on his life, on his teaching, on his challenges to be faithful. And every word of the Gospels is a meditation which flows from the cross. If They recognized God in Jesus hanging on the cross, with all that signifies. We too must start from that place. And if we can recognize and believe in him on the wood of the cross, then on Christmas Day we can kneel in front of the crib and adore him in the wood of the crib. Our beautiful choir at our service today sang my favourite carol, In the Bleak Midwinter, by Christina Rossetti. And if I have a favourite verse in that favourite carol, it's the last verse. This is what it says: What can I give him, poor though I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. What can I give him? I will give my heart. And in the midst of all the disappointment, all the sadness, all the strangeness of this lockdown time, when we can't give gifts, when we can't be with those who love us, and we are trying to maintain communication with them, in the end, the gifts don't matter. It's what they signify which matters. And what does the giving of a gift at Christmas signify? Except saying to another person, saying to a charity, saying to a poor person, deprived, perhaps hungry at this difficult time, what can I give you? How can I show you the love of God which I myself have experienced? What can I offer, poor though I am? What can I give him? I will give my heart. That's the only thing worth giving and receiving this Christmas, strange though it is.